The Mystery of the Green Children, the English tale that became famous overnight. Introduction: When history turned green. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that's as bizarre as it is mysterious. This isn't some work of fiction or a movie script. It comes from the pages of real history, where the line between fact and myth gets completely blurred. This happened in a small English village called Woolpit. The name still exists on the map of Britain today. But back in the 12th century, this village witnessed a night that left all of Europe baffled. That night, two young children, a boy and a girl, appeared out of nowhere. They were maybe 7 and 10 years old. Their clothes looked like they came from some unknown world. No one could understand their speech. And their skin? Their skin was green, shining green like an emerald. This isn't modern sci-fi. The event took place around the year 1150, and the biggest proof is that two major historians of the time, Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, wrote about it in their own books. Both were respected scholars, not known for making up fantasy tales. So, did it really happen? Is there an explanation, or is it just a forgotten folk tale? Let's peel back the layers of this mystery one by one. Home, Woolpit Village, where the mystery began. First, let's understand the village. Woolpit still exists in Suffolk County, England. Back then, it was a simple farming village surrounded by dense woods, marshy fields, and farmland. The people lived off crops and livestock. In the middle of the village was a small church, and next to it a large pit called the Wolf Pit. In those days, England was full of wolves, and villagers dug such pits to trap them. Around the year 1150, a strange unease had settled over the village. For months, crops had been failing. Rain was scarce. The river outside the village had nearly dried up. Cattle were getting sick, and children would cry at night for no reason. The village elders held a meeting. Some said the land was cursed, others thought poisonous air had arrived, and one old woman claimed she'd seen a green glowing streak in the night sky falling toward the pit. The village priest, Father Eldrick, was called. He was a smart, educated man. He said, "There's no such thing as a curse, but yes, something strange is about to happen." He advised everyone to stay indoors after dusk and not go out at night. But that night, what was going to happen, happened. NLEW, the night when green lightning struck. The exact date is hard to remember, but it was probably a night of August or September. The sky was clear, but suddenly black clouds rolled in from the west. The wind picked up. With the cold wind came a strange smell, like burning metal or scorched wires. Though there were no wires back then, people later compared it to the smell of burnt sulfur. Then, for an instant, the whole sky lit up with a green glow, a light so bright it was like a huge falling star. Then came a blast so loud that every window in the village shook. The church bell started ringing on its own, or maybe it just rang from the shaking. All the dogs began barking. Children woke up crying. When everything went quiet, people gathered at their doorways. No one dared to go outside. They sat frightened through the whole night. Somehow, dawn came. As the sun rose, the village headman and some young men armed themselves with weapons and torches and headed to the place where the green light had fallen, the old wolf pit. As they got closer, a strange smell filled the air. The grass around the pit was scorched as if by fire, but there were no flames, just wilted, blackened blades. And then they looked inside. Two green children in the pit. Inside the pit, huddled in a corner, sat two small children, clinging to each other. They were shivering, their teeth chattering. They looked even more terrified than anyone expected. At first glance, people were stunned. Their skin was completely green. Yes, green, like fresh leaves or an emerald. The green didn't look unnatural, it looked like that was their natural skin color. Their eyes were also different from ordinary humans. Some later said they had light golden or yellowish eyes. But the strangest thing was their clothing. They wore something no one had ever seen. It wasn't wool or linen, it was a strange, shiny material, like modern plastic or silk, but back then, no such fabric was known. The villagers stood silent for a while, just staring. Then a young man spoke to them. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" The children answered, but their language was completely foreign. It wasn't English, French, or Latin. It was a language whose sounds and consonants didn't match any known European tongue. The historian Ralph of Coggeshall wrote that their speech sounded like the chirping of birds, melodious but incomprehensible. Both the boy and girl were very weak, probably starving. Villagers tried to give them bread and milk, but the children refused at first. Later, when offered fresh beans, they ate those, but they wouldn't touch bread or any other grain. It seemed like they had never seen bread before. Scripture from the pens of historians. The earliest written record of this event comes from Ralph of Coggeshall in his Chronicum Anglicanum. He wrote the story around 1180, about 30 years after it happened, but he claimed the information came directly from the village headman and priest of the time. The other major historian, William of Newburgh, wrote about the event in even more detail in his book Historia Rerum Anglicarum. William was a very rational writer. He dismissed many miracle stories, but he called this one absolutely true and verified. He wrote, "In Suffolk, England, there is a village called Woolpit. There, during the reign of King Stephen, some farmers found 2 children in a wolf pit, a boy and a girl. Their entire bodies were green. They spoke an unknown language. No one could understand them." William goes on to say that the children were taken to the home of a local lord named Richard de Calme. They were treated well there, but the boy soon fell sick and died. The girl survived, and over time she learned English, and her green color slowly faded to a normal skin tone. The girl's testimony when the secret came out. The most interesting twist comes when the girl, later called Agnes, though her real name was never recorded, learned English. The villagers and the lord questioned her. What she told them was astonishing. According to her, she and her brother came from a place where the sun never shone. It was always twilight there. She called that land the Land of St. Martin. The name comes from a Christian saint, but she gave more details. Everyone there had green skin. A large river flowed through that land, and on the other side of the river was another country where the sun always shone, like our world. One day, she and her brother were herding sheep. They saw a deep cave. They went inside. They walked through darkness for a long time. Suddenly, they heard the sound of bells in the distance. They moved toward the sound, and then they tumbled into this pit. When they came out, everything was different. The light was too bright, the air was warm, and no one could understand them. Now the question arises, was that cave a doorway to time travel or a parallel dimension, or just an ordinary tunnel leading to a distant settlement? But the strangest detail was her claim that the sun never rose in her land. How could that be? Did she live in a deep valley or an underground city, or was it part of a bigger lie? Scientific explanations. Were they really green? Whenever a historical mystery comes up, science tries to explain it. Several theories have been proposed about the green children. 1. Chlorosis, green sickness. In medieval Europe, there was a disease called chlorosis, sometimes called green sickness. It was mainly caused by nutritional deficiency, especially iron, in teenage girls, giving the skin a pale greenish-yellow tint. But the skin wouldn't turn emerald green. Also, the boy was green too, and the children refused normal food, which doesn't fully fit this theory. 2. Toxic chemicals, Arsenic or copper. Long-term exposure to elements like copper or arsenic can turn skin a greenish color. In the Middle Ages, some settlements were near copper mines. It's possible these children came from an area where drinking water had high levels of copper or arsenic, making people's skin look green. But no known settlement in England had an entirely green-skinned population. 3. Fluorosis. Too much fluoride causes tooth staining and bone problems, but not green skin, so unlikely. 4. Porphyria, a rare blood disorder that makes skin extremely sensitive to sunlight and sometimes changes skin color, but green isn't typical for this disease. 5. Plant juice or moss staining. A very simple explanation. The children might have been lost in a swamp or forest with moss or algae covering their skin, making them